In these mountains, trails don't just wander, they vanish. Here, the wild keeps its own counsel, and one misstep can rewrite a life. Along America's eastern spine lies a path of ancient stone and whispering woods, more than a route through mountains, a promise and a test. It is a living, breathing entity, a ribbon of wilderness woven into the fabric of the nation. This is the Appalachian Trail. Its story is not written in ink, but etched into the very landscape it traverses. A landscape that has witnessed the rise and fall of mountains, the flow of ancient rivers, and the endless cycle of seasons. The mountains themselves, worn down by 500 million years of wind and rain, are among the oldest on Earth. They hold a quiet wisdom, a silent history that draws people in, inviting them to connect with something primal and enduring. Stretching nearly 2,200 miles, it winds its way through the ancient mountains of America's eastern spine. This legendary footpath crosses 14 states, a monumental journey that begins in the verdant rolling hills of Georgia and culminates in the raw, untamed wilderness of Maine. It traverses the Great Smoky Mountains, follows the Blue Ridge, and challenges climbers with the rocky spine of Pennsylvania and the formidable peaks of New Hampshire's White Mountains. Each section offers its own unique character, its own distinct beauty, and its own set of challenges. From the gentle, welcoming slopes of Springer Mountain in Georgia to the final, grueling ascent of Mount Katahdin in Maine, it calls to the adventurous soul. It is a siren song of freedom and self-discovery. It promises solitude, profound beauty, and a deep, almost spiritual connection to the natural world. To walk the trail is to strip away the non-essential, to find a rhythm dictated not by clocks and calendars, but by the rising and setting of the sun. It's a chance to hear one's own thoughts, to feel the earth beneath your feet, and to witness vistas that have remained unchanged for millennia. Each year, thousands of hikers answer this call. Some are through hikers, attempting the entire length in a single epic journey that can take 5 to 7 months. Others are section hikers, tackling the trail piece by piece over years, and many more are day hikers, seeking a brief escape. They come from all walks of life, driven by a shared desire to test their physical and mental limits, to escape the relentless noise of modern life, and to find something real and tangible in a world that can often feel synthetic. They walk in the footsteps of those who came before, joining a long lineage of dreamers and wanderers who saw the trail not just as a recreational path, but as a vision for preservation and a sanctuary for the human spirit. But this romantic beauty, this promise of renewal, masks a formidable and unforgiving power. The Appalachian Trail is not a park. It is not a manicured garden path. It is a wilderness, a true untamed wilderness that operates on its own terms, indifferent to human plans and vulnerabilities. Here, the terrain can be treacherous, with slick roots, loose rocks, and steep ascents that can exhaust even the most seasoned athlete. The weather is notoriously unpredictable. A sunny morning can turn into a life-threatening electrical storm, or a disorienting, bone-chilling fog in a matter of minutes. And the isolation can be absolute. Miles from the nearest road with no cell service, a hiker is utterly on their own. Out here, a simple wrong turn can lead to catastrophic disorientation. The very forests that offer solace and peace can quickly become a bewildering maze of indistinguishable trees, swallowing paths, landmarks, and all sense of direction without a trace. The trail's white blazes, the hiker's lifeline, can be missed in a moment of distraction. Once off the path, every direction looks the same. Panic can set in, compounding the error, turning a minor mistake into a desperate crisis. Most who lose their way are found. They emerge from the woods tired, humbled, but safe. But sometimes the wilderness claims a hiker. Sometimes the path disappears, and a story of adventure transforms into a desperate struggle for survival. In the dense, remote woods of western Maine, during the summer of 2013, the trail became the setting for just such a mystery. It was a case that would baffle experienced searchers, generate national attention, and haunt the hiking community for years to come. It is the story of Geraldine Largay, an experienced and well-prepared hiker who, just miles from a resupply point, stepped off the path for a moment and was never seen alive again. Her disappearance triggered one of the largest search and rescue operations in Maine's history. Yet for 2 years, the forest held its secret, leaving behind only questions and a silent, heartbreaking testament to her courage against impossible odds. This is the story of what happens when the trail vanishes. Subscribe for more true exploration tragedies. Before the headlines and search grids, there was a woman, Geraldine Largay, 66, from Brentwood, Tennessee. Not a daredevil, but a quiet force, methodical, kind, resilient. Friends leaned on her. She carried others' burdens without noise. To understand the mystery that followed, you first have to meet Jerry, the steady heart behind the miles. Her life was built upon a deep-seated desire to care for others. She was the person friends and family turned to for a steady hand and a listening ear, someone who found purpose in easing the burdens of those around her. This innate compassion wasn't just a personality trait. It was the very foundation of her professional life. For many years, she served her country with distinction as a nurse in the U.S. Air Force. It was a role that demanded a unique blend of technical precision, profound empathy, and an unwavering composure under the most intense pressure. In the structured, high-stakes world of military medicine, there is no room for panic, no tolerance for error. Every action is deliberate, every decision critical. This profession shaped her, honing her ability to remain calm in crises and to meticulously plan and prepare for any eventuality. She learned to assess a situation, identify potential risks, and execute a plan with methodical calm. These were not just job skills, they were life skills, ingrained into the very fabric of her character. So when she retired, the idea of hiking the entire Appalachian Trail was not a sudden, impulsive whim. She began in April 2013, aiming to reach Baxter State Park in Maine. It was a carefully considered goal, another chapter in a life lived with intention and quiet determination. For Jerry, this wasn't about conquering a mountain. It was about embracing a challenge with the same diligence and foresight she had applied to everything else in her life. She spent months in preparation, undertaking shorter, demanding hikes to condition her body and test her equipment. She researched every section of the trail, understanding the unique challenges each state would present. Out here on the Appalachian Trail, she adopted a trail name that perfectly captured her essence: Inchworm. Like the small, persistent creature she was named after, she moved forward with a consistent and measured rhythm. Her pace was not fast, but it was relentless. She made her progress inch by inch, mile by mile, day after day. There was no complaint or fanfare, only the quiet satisfaction of steady, forward movement. She wasn't racing against a clock or competing with other hikers. She was simply present in her journey, absorbing the world around her one deliberate step at a time. And her method was undeniably effective. By the time the humid days of July 2013 arrived, Gerry Largay had successfully walked approximately 1,000 miles of the Appalachian Trail. She had begun her journey in the budding forests of Georgia, navigated the misty, rain-soaked peaks of the Great Smoky Mountains, and traversed the long, rolling hills of Virginia. Each section presented its own test of will and endurance. Through it all, she had demonstrated the skills and the fortitude to handle what the wilderness threw at her. She had faced down torrential rain, navigated treacherous footing, and managed the daily physical toll of long-distance hiking. Her nursing background gave her an intimate understanding of her own body's limits and needs, allowing her to manage fatigue and prevent injury with a practiced eye. But she wasn't entirely alone in this monumental undertaking. Her husband, George, was her steadfast support system, her one-man logistics team. Their system was a well-oiled machine, a testament to their partnership. George would drive their vehicle along the roads that intersected the trail, meeting her at pre-arranged crossings every few days. He would resupply her with food and fresh gear, and offer a welcome dose of civilization and love before she ventured back into the wild. This routine was their lifeline, a crucial component of her meticulously crafted plan. Now, she was entering the final and arguably most difficult leg of her journey. The trail in western Maine is a different beast entirely. It is notoriously rugged, unforgivingly remote, and far less traveled than the southern sections. The terrain is a chaotic jumble of granite roots and steep, punishing climbs. The forest is dense, swallowing light and sound. As Gerry Largay stepped into this formidable landscape, with her next meeting with George planned and her goal almost in sight, there was no reason for her or anyone else to believe that anything would change. The plan was working. The Inchworm was moving forward. The morning of July 22, 2013, dawned like many others in the Maine woods. Cool air pooling in the hollows, bead-like mist hanging low, light filtering weakly through spruce and fir. Under a dense triple canopy, visibility shrank to narrow corridors between trunks. Sound was muffled. The day felt hushed, the forest indifferent and immense. At Poplar Ridge Shelter, routine anchored the morning. Water, a quick breakfast, a glance at the map and notes, a check of the forecast scribbled from the last stop. She double-checked a white blaze, the simple mark that linked one moment to the next across miles of wilderness. She was staying at the Poplar Ridge Shelter, preparing to set out alone. Gear checked, laces tied, layers adjusted against damp air, habits built over 1,000 miles. She said her goodbyes to the other hiker and set off on the well-marked path. A steady rhythm. Step, breathe, glance up, white blaze, repeat. The trail ran true along the ridge. At some point during her morning hike, Gerry needed to relieve herself. Stepping off the trail for a few moments of privacy is a routine part of trail life. She moved a short distance from the treadway, onto faint herd paths and game trails where the ground pitched gently and shallow drainages suggested a direction that wasn't the trail at all. In a dense, uniform forest, every direction can start to look the same. Turn once, look back, and the precise line of her footsteps, the subtle human order of the trail, dissolved into needles, leaves, and identical trees. When she turned to go back, the clear line of the trail was no longer visible. A moment of disorientation had set in. Training took over. She tried to backtrack in careful arcs, marking sticks and small stone stacks at each pause, method in the midst of rising unease. 3 blasts on a whistle, then stillness. She listened, 1 minute, then another, only the soft drip of last night's dew from the canopy. The trail had vanished. She was now officially lost. She checked her compass, chose a bearing she believed would intersect the ridge, and began to move with deliberate care. Slow, systematic, mindful of conserving energy. Gerry Largay did what any of us would do in a moment of crisis. She reached for her cell phone. No service. She toggled airplane mode, waited, tried again. Nothing. At 11:01 a.m. on July 22nd, she typed out a desperate plea to her husband. In some trouble. Got off trail. Now lost. Can you call AMC? She climbed toward a knoll for a better signal. Bars flickered, then died. The message queued, waiting for a connection that never came. The message went nowhere. Her next logical step was to try and gain elevation. From above, the canopy was a woven lid, spruce and fir crowns interlocked, hiding anything beneath from sight. The phone's digital record would later show multiple failed attempts to reach him. She steadied her breathing. Training, not panic. Conserve and decide. She chose deliberate action over drift. In Maine's deep woods, trails can vanish in a single step. What had been obvious a moment before becomes a cipher of bark and shadow. In that instant, the forest rewrote the day. Realizing that she could not wander aimlessly, Gerry made a crucial survival decision. She established a base camp. Her location, however, was tragically flawed, situated beneath a dense triple canopy forest that made her campsite virtually invisible from the air. She turned to a more ancient method of signaling for help: fire. Tragically, her efforts were defeated. The smoke was trapped and diffused by the thick layers of leaves and branches overhead. She chose a small rise near a faint seep, clear of blowdowns, high enough to shed water, low enough to stay sheltered, minimizing the risk of getting more disoriented. She pitched the tent low, tightened the rainfly, added insulation with what she had, and organized a base, dry bag here, map and journal there, everything in its place. She rationed deliberately, small measured portions, marking days and conserving stove fuel for when it mattered most. Water came carefully, gathered at a seep or trickle, then filtered or treated before she drank. Slow, methodical, safe. She conserved batteries, brief timed phone checks from higher spots, then off again, saving power for the chance of a signal. When smoke failed beneath the canopy, she created ground signals, bright clothing and a reflective blanket laid into a clear SOS, hoping a break in leaves might reveal it. Weather turned against her. Fog, drizzle and wet duff muted sound and smothered smoke, day after day. Staying put was the safest choice. In thick uniform woods, movement without a known bearing only deepens the maze. She waited for rescue. Geraldine Largay survived alone in the wilderness for at least 26 days. She eventually ran out of the food she had packed, forced to confront the brutal reality of starvation. Yet even in this state, she continued to write. Her journal became her only companion. The final visible entry in her journal is dated August 18, 2013, though some uncertainty about that date remains. By this point, she had been lost for 26 days. When she did not arrive at the Route 27 crossing, the clock began to matter. George waited, then rechecked the time and the plan, scanning the trailhead and parking area for any sign of her. When Geraldine Largay failed to appear at the Route 27 road crossing, her husband George's patient wait turned to outright alarm. He contacted the authorities. The Maine Warden Service launched one of the largest search operations in state history. The hunt for Inchworm had officially begun. The initial hasty search swept obvious routes and nearby junctions. Within hours, the effort expanded to an organized search under an incident command system. Maps were spread across tables, grids drawn and redrawn, assignments briefed by section, trail, drainages, ridge lines and likely points of misdirection. Agencies and volunteers converged, Maine Warden Service, local search and rescue teams, wardens and K9 units, and members of the Appalachian Trail community. Ground teams scoured the trail and fanned out into the dense undergrowth. Line searches moved inch by inch, flagging tape fluttering on saplings, probe poles testing brush and hollows, eyes trained for clues, a thread, a boot print, a broken twig. Clue awareness briefings emphasized probability of detection. What a person, a shelter, or a camp might look like from 5, 10, or 100 yards through leaves and shadow. The effort extended to the skies, but the dense canopy blocked all sight of the ground. From above, the forest was an unbroken roof of green. Even with pilots straining for detail, leaves turned the ground into a shifting camouflage. Weather added to the challenge. Low clouds, gusting winds, and passing rain squalls that grounded aircraft and blurred what little could be seen. K9 teams were brought in, but the wind and rain quickly dispersed any faint scent trails. Terrain funneled air like a maze. Cold drains, stream corridors, and boulder fields fragmented odor. Water crossings diluted and carried scent away. Handlers worked methodically, resetting search lanes after storms, documenting wind shifts, and returning to promising sign when conditions improved. Official reports would later reveal a heartbreaking truth. On multiple occasions, searchers passed within a mere 100 yards of her tent. In that forest, 100 yards can be a wall. A low tent under triple canopy vanishes beneath leaves and light, present yet invisible. Volunteers checked shelters and logbooks, posted flyers in trail towns, and spoke with hikers moving north and south along the corridor. George coordinated with wardens and waited at crossings, a fixed point in a moving operation, ready with supplies, hope, and any detail that might help. Daily briefings tracked areas covered, clues evaluated, and resources reassigned, an exhausting calculus of terrain, time, and likelihood. Along the way, safety bulletins reminded hikers to sign registers, travel in pairs when possible, and keep loved ones informed. Practical steps, without blame. The official search was eventually suspended after weeks of exhaustive and fruitless effort. It was a decision made with heavy hearts after every reasonable tactic had been tried and tried again across terrain that hid more than it revealed. The woods grew quiet once more, holding their secret a little longer. For 2 long years, the fate of Geraldine Largay remained a painful, gnawing mystery for her family and the hiking community. The largest search in Maine's history had yielded nothing, and hope had begun to fade into a quiet, persistent ache of not knowing. The forest had swallowed her whole, leaving behind only questions. Then, on October 14, 2015, in Redington Township, Maine, the silence was broken. The truth was found not by a dedicated search party combing the woods, but by a contract surveyor mapping US Navy-owned land used for its survival, evasion, resistance, and escape school, a place where the wilderness itself is the ultimate instructor. Venturing just a short distance off his survey line to find a clearer spot, he stumbled upon something that didn't belong. There, almost completely swallowed by 2 years of leaf litter and forest decay, was the unmistakable outline of a collapsed tent. It was a scene frozen in time, a silent testament to a long and lonely vigil. The site sat on Navy land about 3,000 to 3,500 feet from the Appalachian Trail, in a thick, unforgiving section of woods that had defeated the original search efforts. The surveyor immediately contacted the Maine Warden Service. After 788 days of uncertainty, the search for Geraldine Largay was finally over. Inside the tent, investigators found Jerry's remains, along with her backpack, sleeping bag, and personal items, including her journal, a map, first aid kit, and rosary beads. The scene was one of order, not panic. It spoke of a person who had faced their final days with methodical calm. But the most significant discovery was a small, water-stained field journal. Within its pages, Jerry's voice, silenced for over 2 years, was about to speak with astonishing clarity, courage, and grace. The journal chronicled her 26 days of survival after she became lost. It was a day-by-day account of her dwindling hope, her unwavering love for her family, and her ultimate acceptance of her fate. Her entries painted a heartbreaking picture. She described her attempts to signal for help, trying to start a signal fire with wet wood, and her failed efforts to find higher ground to get a cell signal. She wrote of her dwindling food supply and the deep, gnawing hunger that set in. Yet, through it all, her thoughts were consistently of others. She worried about the burden her disappearance was placing on her family and the searchers. But the most poignant and powerful part of her final testament was a single page she had carefully torn from the back of the journal, ensuring it would be the first thing her rescuers would see. Dated August 6, 2013, nearly 2 weeks after she went missing, the note was a final act of love. It read, "When you find my body, please call my husband George and my daughter Kerry. It will be the greatest kindness for them to know that I am dead and where you found me, no matter how many years from now." In her final moments, her primary concern was to bring peace to the people she loved, to end their suffering of not knowing. It was an act of profound selflessness. The medical examiner ruled her death accidental, caused by lack of food and water and environmental exposure. The Maine Warden Service confirmed there was absolutely no evidence of foul play. Geraldine Largay had simply made a wrong turn and was unable to find her way back, a victim of the unforgiving wilderness she had so respected. Her death, while tragic, was not in vain. The discovery of her journal and the details of her ordeal sent a shockwave through the hiking community. It served as a stark and powerful reminder that the wilderness does not distinguish between novice and expert. Her tragedy became a catalyst for change, sparking urgent conversations about wilderness navigation, the real risks of solo hiking, and the critical importance of carrying reliable emergency communication devices. Organizations like the Appalachian Trail Conservancy amplified their safety messaging, urging hikers to carry personal locator beacons or satellite messengers, devices that can send an SOS signal with GPS coordinates from anywhere on the planet, even without cell service. Jerry's story underscored a vital lesson. Even the most prepared and experienced hikers can become lost, and a simple piece of technology could have made the difference between life and death. In the end, Geraldine Largay's story is not defined by its tragic conclusion. It is a profound and inspiring testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of love. Her final journal entries, written in the face of certain death, were not expressions of despair, but of grace, dignity, and an unwavering concern for her family. She transformed her final lonely days into a lasting message of love. Her final journey ended in the deep woods of Maine, but her legacy of grace endures. It is a silent, powerful echo on the trail, a story shared between hikers at shelters and around campfires. It is a reminder to prepare, to be humble, and to cherish every moment. In the hearts of all who hear her story, Gerry Largay walks on, a symbol not of how a life was lost, but of how it was lived, right to the very end.